Two women, two princesses of Wales. One an icon of compassion who shook the world and left it too soon. The other a future queen who carries her legacy forward with every poised step and every heartfelt cause. They never met. Diana died in 1997. Kate Middleton wouldn't even meet Prince William for another 4 years. Their lives never overlapped. And yet, buried deep in the pages of history, their bloodlines do. You don't have to bend history or invent a single thing. Go back far enough in their family trees, and Diana and Catherine are not just linked by a title. They are linked by blood. They are cousins. This is the real genealogical chain that connects them. A 400-year journey through some of the most fascinating families in British history. A line that stretches from a Spencer's estate to a Middleton family home, through Tudor courtiers, forgotten viscounts, wool merchants, and a pair of brothers born in the 1500s who would unknowingly tie two princesses of Wales together forever. Let's start with the side everyone thinks they know. Diana's bloodline is aristocratic, ancient, woven into the fabric of the British peerage. Her father was Edward John Spencer, the 8th Earl Spencer. Through him, Diana descends from generations of Spencers, a family synonymous with English nobility, with Althorpe as their ancestral seat. But Diana's royal blood doesn't just flow from the Spencer name. It snakes back through women whose names are quieter in the history books but absolutely essential to this story. The key thread moves from Diana's father Edward Spencer to his mother, Cynthia Hamilton, but go further back, past the Hamiltons, and you land on the Seymour line. The Seymours, a name that echoes with Tudor intrigue. This is the family of Jane Seymour, Henry VIII's third wife, the one who gave him a son and died for it. Diana's connection to the Seymours didn't just give her a drop of Tudor blood. It gave her the first set of coordinates on the map that leads straight to Catherine. From the Seymours, the line doesn't stay in the glare of the royal court. It weaves through families that held titles but operated just below the radar of mainstream history. The Waldegraves, an old English family, earls and barons, trusted servants of the crown, quietly accumulating land and influence. And then the Belasyse family, viscounts and baronets from Yorkshire with deep Catholic roots, survivors of the shifting religious tides that drowned so many others. Follow the Belasyse bloodline further back, and the name changes to Fairfax. A name that would mean nothing to most people today, but to anyone who knows the English Civil War, the Fairfaxes were giants. Thomas Fairfax, the parliamentary commander-in-chief, the man who defeated the king's forces. But that's not where the story settles. The thread doesn't cling to the famous general. It goes to two brothers born in the 1500s in the Yorkshire countryside. Nicholas Fairfax and William Fairfax. Their births, probably in the mid-16th century, mark the pivot point of the entire connection. From Nicholas or William, depending on which branch you trace, the line splits and then, centuries later, reunites in the most unexpected way. Diana descends from one of these brothers. Now watch what happens when we come forward in time from the other brother. The line that leaves the Fairfaxes in the 16th century doesn't carry a title for long. It descends into the world of the rising middle class, into names that built modern Britain not with swords but with trade, industry, and sheer determination. The Meadows family appears. Solid, prosperous folk. Then the Martineaus. Now this is a name with real resonance. The Martineaus were prominent Unitarians, intellectuals, abolitionists, writers. Harriet Martineau, the groundbreaking sociologist and feminist thinker, comes from this very stock. Through the Martineau line, the Fairfax blood flows quietly into a family defined not by inherited privilege but by intellect and moral courage. It's a profound shift. The aristocratic thread transforms into the backbone of Victorian liberal England. And then comes the name Lupton. The Luptons of Leeds were a powerhouse family, wool merchants and textile magnates who became mayors, aldermen, and philanthropists. They were deeply entwined with the Unitarian community, passionate about education, women's rights, and social reform. They married into the Martineaus, the Kenricks, the Chamberlains. This is the world of Neville Chamberlain's family, of progressive politics and business empire. The Luptons didn't live in castles. They built civic institutions. And it is directly out of this Lupton line that a woman named Olive Christiana Lupton was born in 1881. Olive married a man named Richard Noel Middleton, a solicitor and director of the William Lupton Company. They had a son, Peter Francis Middleton, a pilot who flew with Prince Philip. Peter married Valerie Glassborough, a codebreaker at Bletchley Park during the war. And in 1982, Peter and Valerie's son Michael and his wife Carol Goldsmith welcomed their first daughter, Catherine Elizabeth Middleton, Kate, the future Princess of Wales. Let that sink in. The blood that ran through the Earl Spencer and his daughter Diana, the blood that came from those Fairfax brothers in the 1500s, the same blood that moved through the Seymour intrigue, the Waldegrave discretion, the Belasyse endurance, that blood also flowed through industrialists, unitarians, wool mills, and civic halls, and finally into a car park party business in Berkshire and a little girl who would grow up to marry a future king. Two women separated by a generation, by circumstance, by tragedy and triumph, and yet they share the exact same ancestral thread. Diana, whose empathy rewrote the rulebook, and Catherine, whose steady grace is securing the monarchy's future, are cousins. They are blood relatives, tied together not by a royal decree, but by an unbroken family line stretching back over 400 years, to two Yorkshire brothers named Nicholas and William Fairfax, who lived and died long before the title Princess of Wales ever touched either of their descendants' lives. It's the kind of connection that feels like a quiet miracle. Diana never knew she was related to the woman who would wear her engagement ring, who would stand on the same palace balcony, who would raise a future king with the same fierce maternal devotion. She never knew that the girl her son would fall in love with at St. Andrews carried her own distant family legacy forward. And yet, if you follow the records, the baptismal entries, the marriage lines, the wills, the pedigrees, it's all there. A genealogical chain that asks nothing of fiction and everything of history. Some early generation birth years among the Fairfaxes and their immediate forebears remain unconfirmed in surviving parish records, as is so often the case with 16th-century lineages, but the broad structure is accepted across multiple published pedigrees and historical family histories. The truth endures even where precise dates fade. So when you see Catherine, the Princess of Wales, visiting a children's hospice, bending down to speak to a small child with that same gentle, focused attention Diana made famous, when you see her championing early years development the way Diana championed the vulnerable and the forgotten, you are not just seeing the influence of an icon on the institution. You are seeing a kinship that predates both of them. A bloodline that connects them across time, across death, across two very different paths to the same impossibly heavy crown. They were cousins before they were princesses. And the title Princess of Wales, for all its weight and its sorrow and its hope, is just the latest chapter in a family story that started over 400 years ago in rural Yorkshire, with two brothers who could never have imagined the two women their blood would one day unite.